I'm going to try to keep this really brief, but that is difficult because Heval, like all young survivors of war, has already lived long enough to have a full-length movie about his life. And he's going to introduce Nawaz and Rhonda, who are freshly here from Syria, and they also, unfortunately, could have a full-length movie about their lives, too. But Heval, the word that comes to mind when I think of Heval is valiant and also hip-hop music producer. Because this is a part of his life that very few people know. But Heval is valiant, and from the time when he was a very young boy, 10 years old, throwing himself on the Syrian police to try to save his mother from their attack, from the time that he came here and stood up to a sociopathic principal who the AJC eventually outed and moved on, he has always been a person who has championed the cause of the underdog. And this has taken him through medical school and on to Morehouse College, on to Emory, and today, as many of you know, he's a cardiology fellow at Emory. So I'm going to let him, I should say he has an entrepreneurial spirit. He's started an amazing number of projects directed toward improving healthcare, education, the integration of refugees. And we are so fortunate that All Saints was part of his resettlement here in the United States as a 17-year-old. So he's going to tell you all about his life, and here he is, Heval Kelli.
Thank you very much for having me here. It's an honor to come back to All Saints. Today I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to speak to you about a few things. I'm not speaking about heart disease. You could have bacons and eggs if you want. So I'm not wearing the cardiology hat today. So what I want to speak to you today is actually figure out what the purpose of this picture is. It's going to be the backdrop. And all of these members are actually All Saints members here. So some of them may recognize, some of them actually are here. So what I'm going to speak to you today about, one thing, I want to show you like a little bit of my story to inspire you to invest in others. And I also want to show you like how a little act of kindness makes a huge difference in someone's life. And then I'm going to close it what the American dream means to me. I think it's very important for us right now to embrace the value of the American dream. So I always ask people, like when I start my speech, like, how does a refugee go from being a dishwasher to a doctor? Like, what is the secret sauce? Like, what is the inspirational that made a person come to this country within 10 years to become a doctor? So this is what my talk's about. It's like I did a TEDx talk, and I'm going to give you a little synopsis of that talk here too. So one of my earliest memories of this country was September 25th, 2001. It has been just the worst attack on this country. And here we are, a Muslim Syrian refugee family standing in the JFK airport, waiting for our flight to Atlanta. We just arrived after a 6-year stay as refugees in Germany. We had no family and friends in this country, and our only guide was a social worker waiting for us in Atlanta. So while waiting in the fear of the unknown and how we will be treated in this country, I noticed a businessman sitting next to us. First I thought he's part of the CIA or the FBI, because he started talking to me all of a sudden. And I didn't understand anything he said. He pointed to the rainy weather, and he pulled his phone and showed me a picture of his dog. My parents smiled at him, and he made us feel at ease at that moment. Because in Germany, many people speak to us in broken German because we look different. But I'm just 5 minutes in this country, and this businessman thinks I'm an American just like him. He smiled when I say, sorry, no English. But before America and before Germany, there was Syria. Just like everyone here, we had a beautiful home. My father was a lawyer, my mom was staying at home. I was an honor student in a private school. But one day the police stormed in our house, kicked the door, pushed my mom against the wall. I went for a rescue, and next thing I know, I was laying on the floor, holding my head while blood was running down my face. And I was 11 then. They were looking for my father. We were Kurdish people. As you know, the Kurds are an ethnic group, lives in Syria, Iraq, Turkey, and Iran, and sometimes it's not safe for the Kurds. So like right now, you see all these refugees coming to America and Europe. My father had to pay smugglers to get us out of the country. And I always never forget, it was 1996, standing in a very cold winter in Germany. No businessman talked to us. The next thing you know, we arrived to our new home, 1 bedroom, double beds, and a restroom shared with the entire floor of the refugee camp. Even in a foreign land, where many people might look down on you as an immigrant and refugee, someone in Germany just believed in me. We all had that one teacher that made a difference in our life. Mine was my school teacher, Mr. Closer. Now, I never forget sitting in his office while he's telling my father how terrible I am. My father was in shock. How did this kid go from an honor student in Syria to a troubled kid in Germany? I was just 6 months in this country and had no choice to join a group of students who looked like me, because I was welcomed with a punch in the face in my first week in Germany. Now, these kids provided me a lot of security and confidence, but many, many detentions. I was mad because we left our home in Syria, and now we live in a refugee camp, sharing a restroom with everyone in our camp. But I remember my teacher telling my father one thing that was very powerful then. He said, if someone can be so bad so quickly, he just needs direction to be so good. So he decided to teach me truly how to speak German. So every morning before class, he would sit half an hour with me, teach me how to write and read and speak in German. A few years later, I was actually attending the highest secondary school, the Gymnasium in Germany. He invested his time in me and changed the direction of my life. So life was going toward the right direction in Germany. Yes, we're not living in Syria. There's no police coming to our house. We had some freedom. We had a shelter. But then we find out that Germany might not be our permanent home. We were in asylum, which means every 6 months for the 6-year stay in Germany, we had to apply for a visa to stay. And every time we went for the interview, we had the fear to be kicked out of the country and shipped back to Syria. Now, that's, to me as a child, I couldn't understand that. But one thing that got to me is, they told me if no matter how well you do in school and you graduate from high school, you cannot go to college as a refugee. So I, became mad again and almost gave up. But then hope came in the form of 2 church ladies and a truck. These ladies will come every Sunday with a truck filled with used clothes and ask us refugee kids to go through them. Well, first, coming from a middle-class family in Syria, used clothes for us was very something taboo. But then I found a Nike shirt that I actually wore all summer that time. So they noticed that I wasn't as happy going through these used clothes. And they asked me, what's wrong? Why today you're not so excited about this? And I told them, I can't go to college in a year or a year and a half if I finish school, despite having all A's and top grades in my class. So they asked us, let's ask about, pastor and see what we could do. They came, a couple of days later and asked us, hey, how about going to the U.S.? America for us was, burgers and Levi's. Never thought about ever being in America. This was a dream. And it's too far, So after 2 years of weddings and interviews and applications and going to the embassy back and forth, we heard the 3 words that actually gave us a new hope to a better life. It was from an agent. He was from New York. And he said, welcome to America. So right after September 11, we packed our clothes and we got to this country. We didn't know how we will be welcomed in this country. We didn't know how a Muslim family, right after September 11, will be treated. A lot of people fed us a lot of fears in Germany. They told us, be careful, make sure you wear American flags, put an American flag in your apartment. Your favorite color should be blue, red, and white. Make sure you say, God bless America every time you speak. That's actually one of the first words I learned, actually. But, we were truly welcome in this country. And I want to put people in perspective, because we live in the current time right now. There's a lot of division in this country. But right after 2 weeks of September 11, we were welcomed by almost 15 members of All Saints Episcopal Church. They came to our house, brought us new furniture and new clothes. And they hosted a welcoming party for us. We were shocked. How does a Southern Christian church welcome a Muslim family just right after September 11? There's something about this country that's very different than everywhere else. And I never forget one of the oldest members, I'm not going to say the age, Martha Daughtry. She was quiet, and she asked me one question that day. What do you want to do in this country? I say, well, I want to go to college. A few weeks later, she comes in her big car. I think it was a huge Ford. And she asked me, get in the car, let's drive. I was hesitant to drive with an older lady in the car. She actually called me like a few weeks ago and told me, you got my age wrong in your talk, so I avoid mentioning her age now. So, I was shocked. An older woman in her age picked me up and we drove me to Georgia State University and introduced me one of your members here, actually, Mary Louise. Her son was actually a freshman in college. And as a Rwandan refugee, he came a year before us. He helped me to get a waiver into Georgia State, and I started. I never met actually Martha again after that, until the last call I got from her to correct her age. So life was going to the right direction. We felt like America's our new home. People were welcoming us. We felt integrated. But then life as a refugee actually does not, what makes you lose the ability to survive. And I tell you why. In Germany, you live in a camp. The Germans don't let you actually integrate society to work. If you're a refugee, you cannot work. You just get enough support from the government to eat and live and waiting for the next decision if you're going to stay or not. So for 6 years, my father couldn't work, I couldn't work. So we get to this country, they tell us, well, this is a different story. You got 3 months of rent, and then you got to learn English, get your driver license, find a job, get your Social Security. And when challenges come, they don't come at once. They came all at the same time. So my father couldn't work because he had heart disease, and he went into a depression. My mom couldn't find a job, as a last name Muhammad Kelli, and she, in that time was difficult. She didn't speak English. And my brother was 14, he couldn't work. So me as a high school senior, just coming to this country, within a few weeks, I found a job at a restaurant where my mom was grabbing falafel with Barbara Thompson. So she asked me, do you have a job for me? They're like, no, we don't have a job for a woman, but we have a job for a guy. So here I am. I get to this restaurant, they tell me you're going to be a dishwasher. So I started washing dishes at the same restaurant, actually, that's 1 block away from where I trained today as a cardiology fellow at Emory University Hospital. I think I was the most successful dishwasher ever. I could say that now. I used to see all these doctors from Emory come in their scrubs and the med student and grab sandwiches and that was my dream. I was like, I wish one of them would start talking to me. There's no hope and there's no belief in yourself when you just get into this country, washing dishes 30, 40 hours a week, trying to support your parents, learn English, pass your SAT, your graduation test, and they tell you in August you got to start college. But one day I got a call from a guy named Dr. Latouf. He's a heart surgeon at Emory. He called me, he's like, I heard about you. And the same thing came to mind. I was like, he's part of the CIA or the FBI? And like, why would a heart surgeon call a refugee and ask him to meet with him? But then I found out his daughter went to the PACE Academy. The same school that PACE actually took my brother because All Saints member vouched for my brother to go to PACE Academy because he had problem at Clarkson High School. And my brother told his daughter, I have a brother who wants to be a doctor, but he doesn't know anybody in this country to help him. So he asked me to come to his house. I print a MapQuest and I drive. I didn't know that he lived in the most prestige area in Atlanta. I get to his house and I park my 1980 Toyota Camry with a bump on the side. And I didn't look like someone was going to be mentored by him. I looked like his gardener. He welcomed me to his house and he asked me to help him with projects and come to meet and introduce him to a couple of people. He asked me to do like a project for him to find few articles about a certain disease. He didn't know that I sent him a few weeks later 150 articles summarized in one document. Since then, we published papers together, we traveled the world, we started several actually projects to help people like me. He invested in me like my teacher and like All Saints member, and it changed completely the direction of my life. So just to wrap this up, today I stand in front of you as a former refugee and a dishwasher. Today, I'm an American citizen and a cardiology fellow at Emory University. The same place that's 1 block away from where I used to wash dishes. And I always tell people it took me 10 years to walk 1 block. I must be a very slow walker. But I was able to make it. And how did I make it? Going back to the same question I started. What is the secret sauce? Like, how does someone go like me, come to this country, doesn't speak English, and within 10 years goes to one of the top universities in the state and become a heart doctor in service community? There's something that made a difference. Yes, I must be a hardworking person, I must be smart, but something made a difference in my life. And I tell you the answer. Are you ready? Some of you guys know the answer because you watched the talk before. You are the reason I'm here. Your unconscious and conscious act of kindness and help made a difference in my life and my family's life. There's many people come to this country just like me, have great potential, but you are the reason and you are the person that makes a difference in their life to achieve their dream. So you guys know the answer now, how I became a doctor. And I always tell people, look at my family. You invested your effort in me, and now we're actually investing back into our country here in America. For example, my brother right now is actually a general surgery resident at Eastern University. He's going to come back as a trauma surgeon to Atlanta and work at Grady. My mom worked for 10 years daycare center, and now she actually works with Syrian refugees and help them integrate to the society by telling them like how to behave here, how to like find jobs, how to integrate with the churches, how to cook for people and offer them cookies. If you work with Syrian refugee, the disadvantage, you're going to gain weight. So prepare yourself for that. And then me, yes, I became a heart doctor, and now what? So what I do, one of the things I do is, every Sunday, as much as I can, I go to a clinic that provides free care to uninsured people in America. And the clinic is in Clarkson, Georgia. I'm sure many of you guys are familiar with that city. But the interesting part again, the clinic is 1 block away from where I used to live as a refugee when we were welcomed by All Saints Church members. So, you invest in me, and I'm investing back in this country. And I want to urge you, if you see a refugee or an immigrant or someone just like me who really wants to make a difference, I want you to see potential and opportunity for success. And I always ask people, I achieved my American dream, but for me, the American dream, yes, I became a cardiologist, and this is the dream, but what makes it American is I'm trying to recreate the same opportunity for everyone else, and I think that's what makes America a difference. When we achieve our dream and we make it American by offering the same opportunity to everyone else like us to achieve the same dream. So, I want to wrap this up actually with a special guest of mine. She is actually the next person. So I achieved my goals and I'm doing this community. But I want to give you, because when I talk about what are the next steps, and I always like to bring someone to invest. She's an 11-year-old girl, and she's been practicing what to say for the last week. And she called me 100 times, and I was like, you could say whatever you want, it sounds cute. You're 11. Don't worry. She actually arrived a year ago to America. She's a Syrian refugee. Their family was attacked by ISIS in their village, and they had to run away to go to Turkey. They lost everything. They lived for 2 years with the support of strange people. She has a disabled brother with a cerebral palsy. This girl is 11 years old, been 1 year in America, already speaks good English. Now besides that, she got the top honor of her class in her school. She's considered for the gifted program, and several private schools are actually looking to take her. We're trying to encourage PACE and PIDEA and AIS to consider this. Because, they consider my brother, and it's, it's a nice return. He's a surgeon now. So I want to introduce my special guest, Nuruz Taha. And after she finishes, if you have any question, I think I want to make this a conversational thing. I want to pass out to my special guest. She's the star of the show. I'm just her hype man.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nuruz Youssef. I am a Syrian refugee. Thank you for welcoming us to our new home in America, and thank you for welcoming us to the great country. I left Syria and went to Turkey and lived in Turkey about 2 years. Then I came to America 1 year ago. I have a sister and an older brother in the wheelchair. And I have a mother and a father. We study very hard. And my sister wants to be a scientist, and I want to be a doctor because I want to help all of the children in the world. Thank you for Louisa and her friends. And I brought a gift for the church. Thank you for having me here.
Good job. Thank you. She stole the show in like 1 minute. So, yeah, you want to give it to like Louisa or something? Thank you. She's an artist, so she drew a picture for the church, and so thank you so much for having us here. Like the All Saints Church made a huge difference in our life. We would not be here. I would never dream of being a cardiologist sitting here if I didn't have you guys as embracing us and welcoming us when we came to America. And I actually, if you guys still remember Elizabeth Rolls, anyone? Yeah. She was our like mother, social worker, sister, friend. I mean, this lady was like Louisa, hands-on with us, and actually tracked her back to Arizona, and I sent her a message. She was very happy. Actually, we started talking again. So she sends her regards to everyone here. I always focus on home first. There's 93 Syrian refugees in Atlanta now, and they have come with great needs. And if we could serve these people and create the next future of America, then we could fix Syria. There's a lot of people helping Syria right now. But I think if we have more people like me and my brother, like doctors, engineers, and lawyers, they will build Syria. And we need the Western education to invest in the East and make a difference. So I think the best thing you could do is reach out to these Syrian family and just be present. I always tell people, be present. That makes a huge difference, because a family felt welcome when they see an American in their household welcoming them. And the next thing, you find out what their needs are. Some people need a better job. Some people may need a resume. Some people need English learning. You know, you could make a huge difference. We used to have a lawyer, I forgot to mention him. His name is James Marshall. Yeah, very, very deep voice. He was actually our English teacher. We come every Sunday for an hour, 2 hours to our house with his daughter. He ate for half an hour my mom's food, and then, you know, and then he would teach us English. I know it was 1 hour a week. He didn't make a difference in our English, but what he made a difference is he made us feel confidence and give us an incentive to learn every week English. So when he was not there, we were learning English. I usually, when I try to do something for refugee, I always involve the refugee and the American citizen. It's very important to include both sides to learn from each other. And people like Barbara Thompson, I mean, I think Barbara made a difference in almost in every refugee of a success story. I met someone in Washington, and I was like, oh, you're from Clarkston, do you know Barbara? He's like, of course I know Barbara. So Barbara is single-handedly, like for her network, made a huge difference in many people's life. I mean, so I think it's very important also to bring everyone together. And there's organized effort, and people are working on it. But I think we need to have conversation like this and also go back to the community and serve. And that's what I do. For me, to make a difference in American society is to show an example of service first. And that's how I change perception and minds to invest in refugees and immigrants. Nice incident, when we came to Germany, one of the volunteers came and tried to teach my mom how to use a vacuum cleaner. And my mom's like, do Germans don't know how to use vacuum cleaners? She's like, why is he teaching me how to use a vacuum cleaner? Is he like, and that incident was actually funny, because exactly goes back to you, like, we need to think about people's background, where they come from, because, you know, they're people just like us, you know, and have similar jobs, but because of the war and political situation, they had to leave. And that's a very important aspect, too. Because also it's important when you reach out, that's why I tell people, be present in the community, you'll figure out what their needs are. Some people maybe just need a job, they already speak well English. Some people just need English learning. You know, some people just need a friend, someone to make them feel comfortable while they're watching the news. So I think that's a very important aspect. Thank you for sharing this. I always give example of, you know, we always watch like the Syrian situation, we see like buildings and everything else, and it's very hard for us to relate sometimes, because that doesn't happen in our country. But we relate to stories of what happened to people. And I tell people, my mom has 5 brothers and sisters. My dad has about 10 brothers and sisters that have kids in generation. The only families left in Syria now is 2 brothers of his. Everyone left, either lived in Turkey, Jordan, or Germany or Sweden. So that's the impact of the Syrian crisis. To just give in perspective, if you think about it, your entire family left now. But I stay in contact, you know, the blessing of Facebook and emails and everything else. That keeps people in contact. And you could find out who's safe and who's not. And I go back to the picture. I mean, I don't think America had a tougher time than September 11. You know, that was a big attack on this country. Everyone was depressed to know what's going on. There was a lot of division and perception and, and prejudice to certain people. But I always bring it back to this picture. I mean, it was a very simple act of kindness that welcomed a Muslim family around that time. And that made a huge difference in our life. We felt welcome. So I always tell people, for you to make immigrants and refugee and minority community comfortable, it's very important to be present. And when you're present, you find out what their needs are. And your interaction with them makes a difference. Being a cardiologist, we do a lot of social work, especially at Grady and Emory, and we serve a lot of people in need. And I always tell someone, I was like, Jesus Christ was one of the best social workers ever created in mankind. I mean, he did a very simple thing that people forget. He was present in the community. He didn't show up with a lecture or a seminar. He came up, he said, I'm here to help, and let me help you out, and let me provide some services. And over time, he might have had some people who didn't like him, but he created one of the biggest religion of mankind because of service. And I think we forget that sometimes. It's very important to be in a community, provide services, and that makes a difference over time. So I think we always need to go back how people did it back in the days and learn from them too. So I always bring it back, and my colleague laughed at me. He's like, you read too much history, but I think it's important, back to your question, is like what you do in having discussion with your students and kind of address their needs and fears, that creates a sense of comfort. My wildest dream when I came to America, I watched CNN, and when my story came out in Mary magazine and the Associated Press and CNN interviewed me, I told my mom, and there's something about this country, like a refugee now is on CNN talking about how to help the community. We need to embrace that. We need to protect that, like in America. And I'm very protective of that, like the American dream and opportunity for everyone else. And that's why I come here to speak and inspire and tell people to invest in that, because that's what made a difference in our life. Thank you so much. It's an honor for us to be here. We have a couple of Syrian refugees actually in the back. They're here. We could interact with them. So thank you so much. It's my honor to be here. Thank you very much.